Long before names were given to places, before memory could be carried in words, before history learned to record itself, there was only land, sky, and time. Time measured not in years, but in erosion, in seasons, in the slow adjustment of life to a changing world. On one vast continent, shaped by heat and distance, the long experiment of humanity began. Africa. Not as a cradle of comfort, but as a testing ground. Here, water shifted, forests receded, grasslands expanded, predators watched. Survival was never assured. This is not a story of sudden origin. It is a story of gradual becoming, small changes, accumulating across immense spans of time. Early human ancestors were not separate from nature. They were immersed within it, exposed, vulnerable, hunted as often as they hunted. They possessed no great claws, no thick fur, no natural weapons, and yet they endured. As environments shifted, those who adapted endured longer than those who did not. A change in posture, a hand better suited to grip, eyes positioned to judge distance, quiet adjustments reshaping destiny without intention. As forests thinned and open ground expanded, to survive meant to be seen, and to be seen meant learning awareness. Attention sharpened, memory lengthened, patterns were noticed. Those who could anticipate danger lived longer. Those who could read the land, the movement of animals, the rhythm of seasons, left more descendants. Stone struck against stone, edges sharpened. Not yet weapons, but extensions of the hand. With them came a changed relationship to life and death. To hunt required observation, coordination, timing, and with repetition, the world began to feel less arbitrary. Aggression did not emerge as a defect. It emerged as a response, a force that could preserve life or end it. Those who learned to regulate it, rather than be ruled by it, survived more reliably. From this pressure, cooperation grew, not as kindness, but as necessity. To hunt together reduced risk. To share knowledge increased success. Trust became valuable. Violence and cooperation did not evolve separately. They emerged together. Two aspects of adaptation. And slowly, over deep time, a creature took shape. Neither pure predator nor pure prey, but something in between. In the next part, we will follow how land, movement, and territory began to shape behavior, and how competition left enduring traces on the human mind. As bodies changed, so too did movement. The landscape demanded it. Open ground offered little shelter. To cross it required awareness of distance, of timing, of what might already be watching. Movement became deliberate. Walking upright was not merely a change in posture, it altered how the world was encountered. The horizon widened, hands were freed, vision extended further into the distance. With this new perspective came choice: where to move, when to stop, which paths were safe and which were not. Over time, movement traced patterns across the land. Paths repeated, water sources revisited, seasonal routes remembered. The land was no longer anonymous. Certain places mattered more than others. A river bend that attracted animals, a shaded rise that offered rest, a rocky outcrop that provided visibility. These places were not owned in any formal sense, but they were recognized, returned to, defended when necessary. From this recognition, the idea of territory began to form, not as borders on a map, but as lived familiarity. To know a place was to survive better within it. To lose access to it was to accept greater risk. Encounters between groups became inevitable, sometimes brief, sometimes tense, sometimes violent. Competition was not constant, but it was real, and it shaped behavior. Displays of strength mattered, signals of warning mattered. Knowing when to advance and when to withdraw became essential. Here, restraint proved as important as force. Those who misjudged encounters did not last long. Over generations, a sensitivity to social signals developed. Posture, movement, eye contact. The body became a communicator before language ever existed. Groups that could maintain internal cohesion were more stable than those that could not. Disruption weakened survival. Coordination strengthened it. Territory, then, was not just land. It was relationship. Between individuals, between groups, between memory and place. And as these relationships grew more complex, so too did the mind required to manage them. In the next part, we will look more closely at tools, not only as objects shaped by hands, but as forces that reshaped thought itself. Stone does not change easily. It must be struck with intent. Early tools were simple, a broken edge, a sharpened surface, but simplicity did not limit their impact. To shape stone required foresight. The blow had to be imagined before it was delivered. Angle mattered. Force mattered. Mistakes were final. In this process, the hand and the mind began to work as one. Action became planned, not just reacted. A tool extended the reach of the body. It cut where fingers could not. It struck with greater precision. It endured beyond a single moment. But tools did more than alter survival. They altered thinking. To carry a tool was to anticipate future need. A stone kept was a promise, not to the present, but to what might come next. Memory became useful in new ways. Which stones worked best, where they were found, how they fractured. Knowledge began to accumulate. And knowledge, once shared, no longer belonged to one individual. Here, learning became social. Younger members observed, imitated, practiced. The group remembered, even when individuals did not. Tools introduced delay between cause and effect. Preparation now mattered as much as action. The mind adapted to hold sequences, not just moments. With repeated use, patterns formed, planning improved, accuracy increased, and with it, confidence. Yet tools also changed relationships with other living things. Distance grew between hunter and prey. Death became less immediate, more controlled. This distance reduced risk, but it also required discipline. Careless action could still be fatal. Those who respected limits survived longer than those who did not. In this way, restraint became a form of intelligence. As tools grew more reliable, groups grew more stable. As groups stabilized, social complexity increased. In the next part, we will turn to the emerging social world, how hierarchy, cooperation, and conflict began to shape early human communities. As groups endured over time, they grew more than numbers. They grew structure. Living together required balance. Food had to be shared. Risk had to be managed. Disputes had to be contained. Not all individuals contributed in the same way. Some observed more carefully. Some acted more decisively. Some remembered better than others. Differences mattered, and over time, patterns emerged. Certain individuals were followed more often. Their decisions carried weight, not because of title or rule, but because experience had proven them reliable. This was the beginning of hierarchy, not imposed, but recognized. Hierarchy reduced uncertainty. In moments of danger, hesitation could be fatal. Clear leadership improved survival. But dominance alone was not enough. Those who relied only on force destabilized the group. Conflict within a group was as dangerous as threat from outside. Successful leaders learned restraint. They mediated disputes. They preserved cohesion. Their authority depended on trust, not fear. Here, social intelligence became as valuable as physical strength. Reading emotion, anticipating reaction, knowing when to intervene and when to withdraw. Groups that failed to regulate internal aggression fractured. Those that managed it endured. Cooperation expanded beyond immediate kin. Shared tasks required coordination. Shared risk required fairness. Reputation began to matter. Memory now included social history. Who had shared? Who had failed? Who could be relied upon? These memories guided future choices. Trust was earned slowly and lost quickly. In this environment, behavior shaped survival as strongly as environment itself. The human story was no longer written only in bone and stone, but in relationship. In the next part, we will explore how these growing social demands drove changes in communication and laid the groundwork for language itself. As social life grew more complex, silence became limiting. Early humans had long relied on gesture, on posture, on expression. A glance could warn. A movement could signal intent. But gestures were bound to the present moment. They worked best when seen, when close, when danger was already near. Groups now required something more, a way to coordinate before movement, to share knowledge beyond immediate sight, to refer to what was absent. Vocal sounds, once tied mainly to emotion, began to change. Calls differentiated, rhythms stabilized, meaning accumulated. These sounds were not yet language as we know it. They carried no grammar, no abstract structure, but they carried intention. A warning sounded differently from a summons. A call to gather differed from a signal to flee. Those who responded appropriately survived more often. Over time, consistency mattered. Sounds that were repeated became recognized. Recognition became expectation. With expectation came shared understanding. The group began to anticipate meaning before action occurred. Communication extended memory. Information could now be passed from one moment to the next, from one individual to another. A place of danger could be indicated without returning to it. A successful hunt could be described, not merely reenacted. In this way, experience began to travel. Knowledge was no longer confined to those who had lived it directly. This shift transformed learning. Younger members no longer relied solely on trial and error. They listened, they observed, they absorbed. The cost of mistakes decreased. The speed of adaptation increased. As sounds grew more refined, so too did the mind required to manage them. Sequences of meaning were held, intentions layered, timing mattered. Communication became a shared tool, one that shaped thought as much as it expressed it. Language did not appear suddenly. It emerged slowly, under pressure. Pressure to coordinate, to remember, to belong. In the next part, we will look at how this growing inner world, memory, anticipation, imagination, began to reshape how humans understood themselves. As communication deepened, the human mind changed in quieter ways. Memory was no longer only practical. It became narrative. Events were linked, sequences recalled, experiences ordered in time. The past began to feel continuous, not just a collection of moments, but a story that could be revisited. With this continuity came imagination, the ability to picture what was not present, to rehearse action before it occurred, to anticipate outcomes. Imagination reduced risk. A hunt could be planned, a route evaluated, a conflict avoided. Those who could imagine consequences were less likely to encounter them unprepared. The mind became a space of trial, where action could be tested without physical cost. This inner world grew richer over time. Memory blended with anticipation, experience with expectation. Emotions, too, became more complex. Fear could be recalled, desire anticipated, loss remembered. These emotions influenced behavior even in the absence of immediate threat. Here, restraint gained new depth, not just reaction, but reflection. Social life depended increasingly on managing internal states. Impulse had to be delayed, response moderated. Those who could regulate themselves were more reliable within the group. The self began to take shape, not as a fixed identity, but as a continuity of experience. I was, I am, I may be. This sense of self strengthened bonds. Individuals could be recognized across time. Reputation could persist. Trust became more stable. But imagination also carried cost. The ability to anticipate danger meant the ability to fear it long before it arrived. Anxiety emerged alongside foresight. The mind could now suffer from what had not yet occurred. This tension between protection and burden became a permanent feature of human awareness. In the next part, we will turn outward again, to ritual, symbol, and the earliest signs that humans were beginning to impose meaning on the world around them. Inner life expanded, so did the need to express it. Some experiences resisted practical explanation. Death, loss, uncertainty. These moments disrupted routine. They demanded response, even when no action could change the outcome. From this need, ritual began to form, not as belief, but as behavior. Bodies gathered, movements repeated, objects arranged with care. These actions did not alter the world directly, they altered the experience of living within it. A death marked by attention became less chaotic. Loss gained structure. Over time, certain gestures acquired shared meaning. A stone placed, a body positioned, a space set apart. These were not explanations, they were acknowledgements. Symbol emerged as a way of holding complexity. One thing stood for another. An object carried memory. Through symbol, the invisible became present. Emotion could be shared without direct experience. Ritual strengthened cohesion. To participate was to belong. Those who shared symbols shared understanding. Difference became visible when symbols were not shared. Groups began to distinguish themselves, not only by territory, but by meaning. Here, identity expanded beyond survival. It included story, gesture, shared memory. Time itself began to feel patterned. Certain moments marked. Certain actions repeated. The past was honored. The future anticipated. Ritual did not replace practical knowledge. It existed alongside it. One addressed survival, the other addressed significance. In the next part, we will examine how these shared meanings shaped cooperation and conflict between different human groups. As groups grew more distinct, encounters became more consequential. Meeting another group was no longer only a matter of resources. It was a meeting of meaning. Shared symbols created cohesion within groups, but they also marked difference. What was familiar felt safe. What was unfamiliar required caution. Cooperation flourished most easily where understanding was shared. Within groups, trust deepened, roles stabilized, effort coordinated. Between groups, relationships were less certain. Sometimes exchange occurred, tools traded, knowledge passed quietly. At other times, competition dominated. Access to water, access to land, access to movement. Conflict did not arise from aggression alone. It emerged from overlap, when needs intersected and negotiation failed. Signals mattered. Displays of strength deterred challenge. Signals of alliance invited cooperation. Misreading these signs carried risk. Those who learned to interpret intent accurately survived more often. Over time, patterns hardened. Allies were remembered, rivals anticipated. History began to influence future action. Here, loyalty became valuable. To stand with others increased individual security, but it also demanded commitment. The group now extended into the future. Actions were taken not just for immediate gain, but for collective stability. Conflict, when it occurred, was rarely constant. It flared, it resolved, it left memory behind. These memories shaped boundaries, not lines on land, but expectations of behavior. In this way, identity became both protective and restrictive. It united those within and separated those without. In the next part, we will follow how growing population and stability began to alter the environment itself, and how humans increasingly shaped the world they inhabited. For a long time, humans moved through the world lightly. They followed seasons. They adapted to change. They left little behind. But as numbers grew and groups endured, this balance shifted. Repeated movement worn paths into the land. Preferred camps became familiar places. Certain locations were returned to again and again. The environment began to carry human traces. Fire scars on stone, discarded tools, altered vegetation. Fire, once an occasional force, became managed. It provided warmth, protection, light. With fire, night changed. Activity extended beyond daylight. Gathering replaced isolation. Cooking altered food. It softened fibers, reduced risk, increased efficiency. The body adapted in response. The mind followed. Fire also reshaped landscapes. Controlled burns opened ground, encouraged growth, attracted animals. The environment became interactive, not mastered, but influenced. This influence carried responsibility. Poor judgment could exhaust resources. Careless fire could destroy shelter. Groups that learned restraint endured longer than those that did not. Knowledge now included consequences that unfolded over years. The future became relevant to present action. Human survival was no longer separate from environmental stability. They were linked. In shaping the land, humans also shaped themselves. In the next part, we will examine how these changes prepared the ground for agriculture, settlement, and the profound transformations that followed. Over time, movement slowed. Certain places offered reliable return. Water remained, soil renewed. Animals followed predictable routes. What had once been temporary became familiar. Groups lingered longer. Shelters improved. Storage began. With storage came planning beyond immediate need. The future entered daily life. Plants were no longer only gathered, they were encouraged. Seeds saved. Ground cleared. Growth observed. This was not sudden invention. It was gradual adjustment. Small acts repeated until they became habit. As plants changed, so did people. Diet narrowed. Work patterns shifted. Daily routines stabilized. Animals, too, were drawn closer. Some tolerated proximity. Some benefited from protection. a new relationship formed. Stability brought security and new challenges. Crowding increased. Illness spread more easily. Resources required management. Ownership gained meaning, not as abstract law, but as necessity. Disputes changed in nature. They were no longer about movement, but about control. Hierarchy became more visible. Roles specialized. Authority formalized. The social world thickened. Life slowed, but complexity increased. In the next part, we will explore how these settled lives gave rise to belief systems, myths, and early moral frameworks. As lives settled, questions deepened. Regularity brought predictability, but also vulnerability, drought, flood, illness. Events now affected many at once. Their causes were not always visible. To endure uncertainty, explanation became necessary. Stories began to form, not records of fact, but frameworks of meaning. Through story, forces beyond control could be named, cycles could be described, loss could be placed within order. Myth did not replace observation, it complemented it. One explained how, the other explained why. As stories spread, they guided behavior. They warned, they instructed, they reassured. From these stories, moral expectations emerged. Actions acquired weight beyond immediate consequence. Certain behaviors were encouraged, others discouraged, not by force alone, but by shared belief. Ritual reinforced these boundaries. Repeated acts made values visible. Community coherence strengthened. Shared meaning reduced conflict within groups. But difference between groups grew sharper. Belief became identity. The invisible world gained influence over the visible one. In the next part, we will look at how these systems of belief interacted with power, shaping authority, leadership, and social control. As belief systems deepened, power took new forms. Authority was no longer based solely on strength or experience. It could now be justified through meaning. Those who interpreted stories, rituals, and signs gained influence. Knowledge became position. The ability to explain uncertainty granted control over response. Leadership grew more formal, roles defined, responsibilities assigned. Hierarchy solidified, not only through command, but through legitimacy. Rules gained permanence. They endured beyond individual lives. Obedience was no longer just practical, it was moral. This stability brought order. Large groups could coordinate, resources could be managed. But it also carried risk. Power concentrated. Distance grew between decision and consequence. Those at the top were insulated from daily hardship. Those below bore its weight. Control could be protective or exploitative. The difference was often subtle. Resistance emerged alongside authority. Traditions challenged, narratives contested. Change now occurred through tension, not movement. In the next part, we will follow how expanding societies reshaped conflict, cooperation, and the scale of human interaction. As societies expanded, distance increased. Not only across land, but between people. Settlements grew into centers. Centers linked to others. Exchange followed paths that stretched far beyond memory. Goods moved, ideas traveled, beliefs adapted. The human world widened. With scale came complexity. Decisions affected those unseen. Consequences unfolded far from their cause. Conflict changed in character. No longer brief encounters between small groups, but sustained tensions between organized societies. Preparation replaced reaction. Planning replaced impulse. Weapons became specialized. Strategies formalized. Distance between action and outcome grew. Yet cooperation also expanded. Trade reduced isolation. Alliances stabilized borders. Shared interest moderated aggression. Rules emerged to regulate interaction. Agreements honored. Boundaries recognized. Order imposed upon complexity. Still, imbalance persisted. Resources accumulated unevenly. Power concentrated. Expansion rewarded some at the expense of others. Here, contradiction hardened. Progress alongside destruction. Stability alongside coercion. Human capability had outpaced human restraint. In the next and final part, we will step back, placing this long trajectory into perspective and asking what it reveals about human nature itself. From deep time to the present, the human story has unfolded without pause. Not as a straight line, but as a pattern, repeating, adapting, reshaping itself across environments and eras. What began as survival became relationship. What began as movement became settlement. What began as reaction became intention. At every stage, the same forces returned: adaptation, competition, cooperation. These were never opposites. They were always intertwined. The capacity for violence and the capacity for care emerged together. One did not replace the other. Neither disappeared. Tools sharpened the hand. Language shaped the mind. Belief organized behavior. Each transformation carried benefit and cost. No trait arrived without consequence. No advance came without risk. Human nature was not fixed at origin. It remained responsive to landscape, to structure, to meaning. Even now, ancient patterns persist. Territory still matters. Identity still binds. Stories still guide action. The environments have changed, the pressures have shifted, but the mechanisms remain recognizable. To understand humanity is not to excuse its harms, nor to deny its achievements. It is to see continuity where we often assume rupture. The past is not behind us. It moves within us, in habit, in impulse, in imagination. And the future, as it always has, will be shaped by how well we recognize these inherited forces and choose how to direct them. The long experiment continues.